I had a topsy-turvy childhood, perhaps what you might call the curate's egg good in places. We lived in a large house set in its own grounds a few miles from the nearest town, and as a consequence, apart from mates that I met at school, I had very few friends outside the family, but they weren't really necessary because of the exceedingly tame wild animals that roamed our estate, animals that gave me hours of pleasure just to watch and photograph as they grazed. As the youngest child and the only boy, my eldest sister, 14 years older than I, spoilt me something rotten. She tended to mother me after the sad death of my natural mother who died giving birth to me. Dad remarried 18 months later and I was inflicted with twin stepsisters, 6 years older than myself. My natural sister refused to play second fiddle to Dad's fancy bit and left home to live with an aunt. My stepmother, like my dad, was supportive, loving and caring, but the twins tormented me at every opportunity. It was mischief, not malice, and when push came to shove we got on quite well. We wanted for nothing, within reason, and whilst we were allowed considerable scope we were not undisciplined. A warning in respect of a transgression was followed by a short punishment if it were to be repeated. I don't recall any of us being severely punished, though I do remember the twins being threatened with dire consequences once. The occasion was my 5th birthday and I had been promised a special party, a costume party Mum called it, and she had got me a little soldier suit reminiscent of those used during the War of Independence. There was a toy rifle, boots and headdress, full uniform, and I was really looking forward to it. Dad had been working away at the time, though he said he hoped to make it home in time for the party. Mum had a job that supplemented our income, a job that meant she was out calling on clients most days, including weekends. My birthday came on a Sunday during the summer holidays. Mum promised to be home by 3:30, 4 at the latest, and she had asked my 11-year-old sisters to get me ready and dressed for the party as the guests would be coming to tea at 4:30. She had employed caterers to attend to everything else. My sisters tormented and teased me all day about my soldier boy uniform, saying that I was too skinny to be a fighting man, but I ignored them. At 2 o'clock I said it was time I started getting ready, but they kept saying there was plenty of time until, of course, we had a mad rush to get me dressed. They made me have another bath. The water was scented, they used perfumed talc, and just how they managed to convince me that soldiers wore frilly panties I will never know even at that tender age. Okay, I was gullible, but I was only 5 and I'd had a very sheltered upbringing, and I knew no different when they persuaded me that a padded bra was body armor and that a camisole was really a bulletproof vest. I knew Mum and the girls wore one, but I didn't know what it was for. The time for the party drew closer. The girls said they couldn't find my soldier suit and Mum wasn't home to ask, and since the first guests were due any minute, my loving siblings suggested I wore the bridesmaid's dress Sonia had worn when she was 5. Since I really did want to dress up, I had no option but to agree. I have never hated anything so much in my life. When Mum came home she smiled lovingly. The twins stood either side of her as she admired my costume. Mum hugged them tightly and was just telling them what a good job they'd done when Dad walked in. He was furious. Mum made out it was my sister's fault and Dad threatened them with serious violence if they ever did it again, and Mum agreed with him, 100% she said, but as the girls were sent to their room I saw her wink at them and smile. My father was killed in a road accident when I was 11, but his insurance policies paid out and we were able to keep our house and standard of living. Even so, Mum still went out to her job and I still didn't know what she did. Dad had been strictly a short back and sides man when it came to hairdressing, and after the twins had curled my hair for the party he had insisted mine was cut the same as his. After his death, very soon afterwards in fact, my sisters suggested I should go with the fashion and let it grow longer. Most of the boys at school wore their hair down to their shoulders these days. I knew that was true and it was very fashionable at the time, so I was happy to ask for Mother's approval. I am sure my mother had put the twins up to this. Straight away she agreed I could let it grow, but she did stipulate that I must wash it regularly, and let Sonia, one of the twins, trim it as necessary to keep it tidy, and of course I agreed. I asked her how long could I let it grow and she replied that, so long as it was tidy I could grow it down my back if I wanted. I was very surprised at how quickly it grew. Within a few months it was down to my collar, and within a couple of years it grew over my shoulders. I loved it, and I was delighted that my sisters were happy to keep it looking nice. My sisters did in fact keep it nicely shaped, and since they now worked at a hairdressing salon, Mom was happy to let them. They seemed to love to wash it 2 or 3 times a week, add conditioner to thicken it out, and occasionally I let them put in a roller or 2 to turn the ends under just a bit. It was a light brown color that, against my heavily tanned complexion, looked absolutely terrific, they said, and I believed they were sincere. After some 18 months I wore it dressed over my ears, softly waved and turned under at the bottom. I fancied myself as Errol Flynn when he starred in Robin Hood. I suppose I should have realized they were feminizing me, but I didn't. By the time I was almost 14 I had grown a fair bit and put on a bit of weight, so I looked much fitter. Mom had brought us a new house in the neighboring state to which we were moving right after a short holiday that would follow my birthday. As my 14th birthday approached I was experiencing a better relationship with my sisters than ever before. They never tired of brushing my hair, combing it this way and that, putting it into a ponytail suitable for boys, and at weekends higher up the back of my head, more like girls. Throughout this time my mother was totally loving and supportive. When I sometimes objected to wearing a full head of rollers overnight, she hugged me and managed to convince me that the ends justified the means and that it would look lovely in the morning. I must admit that I had started to love the way my hair looked. I sometimes wore it loose when I went to school and no one took the mickey. There was a time when Susan, the other twin, got me to wear pantyhose and frilly girls' panties, and I had to keep telling her that I didn't want to be a girl or to look like one. Mother promised to take the 3 of us out on my birthday and bought me a new suit to wear, only this time I made sure I kept it in my own wardrobe. Early on the afternoon of my birthday the twins took me up to the bathroom to fix my hair for the evening out, and I happily went with them. In the bathroom they had put an old armchair with casters on the legs. They made me sit down, and before I knew what was happening, they had fitted toy handcuffs to my wrists. Toys they might have been, but I couldn't get them off, and so I was fixed firmly to the chair. They tied my feet and told me to shut up shouting or they'd stick a gag in my mouth. I believed them. I told them there was no need to tie me up. I had never objected to what they did to my hair, but they replied that there was every chance I would today, and they were taking no chances. I wondered what on earth they could mean, and they showed me a list of things they had been told to do, written by Mom and signed. I read the list with despair, making comments as I went. Get Wendell ready for tonight. Crappy name, isn't it? Wash, bleach, perm and style his hair. You are not bleaching it, I said. Wanna bet? Said Sonia. Paint his toenails and fingernails with pale or clear varnish. She cannot be serious. No, I won't let you do it. Why do you think you're tied up, Wendell? Tell him to wear the underwear that's on my bed, as his have not come back from the laundry. Nylon stockings as well. This just isn't fair. Nobody said it was. You can put a little makeup on his eyes and lips. Not too much, mind. She has to be joking. Fuck that for a game of soldiers. Language, Wendy, language. My name is not Wendy. When all this has been done, you may give him the little surprise you have in store for him. What surprise? What else can you do? I'm not wearing a dress. Nobody said you had to, did they? Dress him in a white shirt, open neck, no tie, and then the suit. He is to wear the open-toed sandals, low heel, that are in his wardrobe. I haven't got any open-toed sandals, and what's this about low heels? I've got some you can borrow, Wendy. My name is not Wendy. I've told you that once. It might as well be. Select whatever jewelry you think fit, but not too much. Oh shit, you are going to do me up like a girl, just like you did when I was 5. No, not exactly, but now you can see why we've had to fix you to the chair. We've got a hell of a lot to do in the next 4 hours, haven't we, Sonia? Yes indeed, Susan, best get cracking. Come on, Wendy. My name is Wendell, not Wendy. I won't stay here if you call me that again. How are you gonna get away, pet? I'll kill you, so help me, you see if I don't. You can try, but I think you'll look more like a Wendy by the time we're done with you. My hair was washed, partly dried, and then it seemed like several bottles of a stinking solution were poured on. It stung like hell and I moaned a bit, but it made no difference. Eventually Susan said, "Hey, that looks real cool. Now let's perm it." "I don't want it permed," I complained, "it's fine the way you do it." "Not any longer, little brother. Things are about to change and how. But don't worry, sweetie, you'll love it when it's finished, and Mummy said we had to do it, remember?" They had the mirror covered over so I couldn't see what they'd done, and once again they soaked it with a different smelling lotion, though it was just as horrible. They put some tape over my eyes, to keep the lotion out, they said, but I could tell they were putting in some curlers and putting them in tightly. They brought in a large dryer, put it over my head and made damn sure I didn't move until it had finished its work. Eventually out came the little curlers and in went a whole load of larger ones, under the dryer once more, and I then had to sit there while they began working on my nails, hands and feet. I could tell they were being painted, remember my eyes were still taped up, and when that tape was removed I was almost relieved to see that they had only used a lilac-colored polish, very shiny, but I still couldn't see what they had done to my hair. "I hope you aren't thinking of putting me in girls' clothes again," I said. "Remember what Daddy said when you did it last time?" "Well, Daddy isn't here anymore, is he? But don't worry, we don't intend to put girls' clothes on you, though we are going to put quite a bit of makeup on your face, Mummy's orders," said my sister as I started to object. "Mummy said not too much," I protested. "That depends on what you mean by too much, doesn't it, Wendy?" "Don't call me Wendy," I yelled. I didn't believe them. Mum wouldn't do that to me and she'd soon help me to get it off. But, tied up as I was powerless to stop them from plucking my eyebrows, quite severely judging by the pain they caused, and applying what seemed like a whole lot of cosmetics to my face and neck. Then they caused me to flip, and I could well understand why they had tied me up, because Susan produced a gun-like tool and, before I could complain, punched 3 holes in each earlobe and inserted a stud in each. "That was my little surprise," they said. Then they exposed my navel and put another in that for good measure. I wondered just how Mum was going to put that to rights. As they removed the big rollers and brushed my hair out, I could see they had bleached it blonde and put in a few reddish highlights. Mum wouldn't be able to alter that in a hurry either, and when they eventually uncovered the mirror I was able to see that they had created a hairstyle most girls my age would die for. In spite of myself, though I'd never have admitted it, I loved it, but it didn't go with being a boy. Then they started to dress me in girls' underclothes and almost transparent nylon stockings, through which, of course, you could see my painted toes, that were held up by a garter belt. I started to shout at them and was nearly in tears until Sonia said that if I cried and spoiled my makeup she'd put on twice as much afterwards, and she'd use waterproof face paint. They knew me too well, I could turn the tears on and off at will, and I knew she meant what she said. That they had done a good job so far was evident as I was allowed to stand and look in the full-length mirror. Standing there in panties, padded bra, camisole and waist slip with permed blonde hair and almost full makeup, they hadn't yet done my eyes and lips, I did indeed look like a young lady. Then they put me into a shirt that they left open at the neck. The cuffs were extremely tight, it was difficult for them to button them closed, but they managed it in the end. When they helped me into my trousers I was horrified to see they were several inches too short, my nylon-clad ankles could be clearly seen, not only that but they had put a gold ankle identity bracelet on my left leg, and the name on it was Wendy. I was made to sit again and told to keep my head perfectly still as Sonia outlined my lips with a deep red pencil, going just over the bottom lip to make my mouth look a bit bigger. She had a steady hand and did it perfectly. Then she brushed on some lilac lipstick that matched my nails, too thickly by far in my opinion. Susan then layered 3 colors of eyeshadow onto my eyelids and layer upon layer of mascara to make my lashes look longer. They professed their innocence as to which of them it was that had altered my trousers, but somebody must have done it because they fitted perfectly when the suit was bought. Then they pulled the front of my button-down shirt out, undid the lower 3 buttons and tied it in a single knot that left my navel and the ring fitted into it exposed. When they put on the jacket, the sleeves were also several inches too short, leaving the cuffs of my shirt clearly visible. It wasn't even the same jacket, I could see that now, as it was more of a bolero fitting than single-breasted. It was Susan's idea to put 2 or 3 chunky bracelets on each wrist to disguise the sleeve length. They had promised to ignore Mum's instruction and let me wear boys' shoes, but then they said it was a shame to put such pretty feet into boys' shoes, and so they fetched out Susan's sandals. I hated them on sight, but the ankle strap was fitted with a small padlock, very decorative I'm sure, but it made them a fixture. When I looked at myself in Mother's full-length mirror again, I could have easily believed I was a girl, or a boy in drag I should say. All this time my sisters had kept at least one handcuff secured to the chair or to one of their wrists, and now it was time to go down and meet Mother. Before we left my bedroom, they fixed both my wrists, one to each of them with me in the middle, and we stood in the lounge waiting for Mum to come home. I had intended to rush up to my mother and cry to be taken out of this hideous mask, but I couldn't, at least not straight away, so I just stood there and ignored her praises that were mainly directed towards the twins for the fine job they had done. Somehow it didn't seem right not to use the heaven-sent opportunity to have a go at my siblings, and I did so with a vengeance. Mum told them to release me. They took the cuffs off their wrists and gave them to Mum to hold. She released me completely, told me to take off my jacket and come sit with her on the settee so she could look at my lovely navel ring, lavishing praise on how pretty it looked and how lucky I was to have 2 sisters who thought so much of me. By this time the twins had gone to sit at the table and play drafts. Close to tears, real ones this time, I sat by her side. Her arm went round me and pulled me to her bosom. She gently kissed my painted lips and made me open my mouth and touch my lovely lips, her words not mine, with my tongue, to feel how nice and smooth they felt and how incredibly nice the lipstick tasted. Okay, so she was right, but that didn't make me like it anymore. Why have you made them dress me up like a girl, Mummy? I asked. She pretended to be surprised. Why, you don't look like a girl, Wendell. Whatever gave you that idea? I said that my new hairstyle, the makeup and the earrings weren't exactly masculine, neither were the jewelry, the nylon stockings or the perfume, but she pooh-hoed those objections completely. My darling, hundreds and thousands of boys wear makeup and pretty clothes when they're not at school, really they do. Are you telling me that you don't feel special looking as you do now? Do you really not like wearing just a little bit of makeup? Because I think that with your lovely blonde hair it makes you look absolutely fabulous, really I do. I brought out my stock argument that I wasn't a girl, that only girls wore makeup. Of course you're not a girl, you old silly, but I repeat, thousands of boys wear makeup. I'll prove it on the internet if you want me to. I told her not to bother. She agreed that in that silly suit I didn't look much like one thing or the other and suggested we all went upstairs to see what we could do about it. I know I should have smelled a rat, but I didn't. When we went into my bedroom she told Sonia to take off my suit and shirt while she fetched out a dress that was truly lovely if a girl wore it. I was coaxed into it just to see the difference, Mum said. Now what I didn't notice while Mum was pacifying me was that Susan had fetched out her camcorder and was busy filming everything that happened. Having got me into the dress, they all stood there admiring the way I looked, and then she told Sonia I needed a brighter red lipstick to bring out the colors in the dress, and this she quickly put on me. We sat together on my bed as she told me that girls were much more fortunate than boys, mainly because they could wear anything they liked. Take your shoes for example, your own I mean, you have several pairs that are more or less identical, half brown and half black, and other colors are virtually unheard of, 1 in 100,000 I imagine. Now I on the other hand have at least 150 pairs of shoes, all quite different. Every color you can think of, different styles, high and low heels, some with imitation jewels, some with embroidery, but I do have a pair of shoes to go with anything I decide to wear, and that's just one reason I like being a girl. Yes, but you are a girl, or a woman I suppose I should say. That's very true, but so could you be if you'd stop fighting it. Just compare your dull little socks with my nylons, with or without seams, decorated ankles, fishnet or fine. Not much point under trousers, I said. Exactly my point, but they look fantastic under skirts, she replied, and talking of skirts, just think of your trousers, all black, gray or denim and all of them fairly thick and heavy. Compare those to my skirts and dresses and then think of the dozens and dozens I have in my wardrobe, and for each and every one I have several pairs of pretty panties in my drawer, all pretty colors with lace trim, much nicer than your wife fronts. Which would you rather wear? Well, if you were going to make me wear makeup and have my hair like this, then I suppose I'd have to say the dresses and the panties. I'm not going to make you wear anything, honey, I just want you to know what you are missing. I admit I'd like you to wear pretty things all the time, but it has to be your decision. But I'm not a girl, I protested. No, my darling, I know you're not yet anyway. She got up from my bed and went to her own room. As she went, I heard her saying to herself, "But you soon will be, my darling, you soon will be." I was mortified, and strangely enough it was my wicked stepsister Sonia who came to my rescue. Taking me by the hand, she made me take a long look at myself, at my hair, my face, my clothes, etc. And yes, I had to agree that, if I had been a girl then I looked really good, but that didn't make me like it. "Wendy, my dear," she said, ignoring my assertion that my name was Wendell, "I want you to sit down here with me for a minute and just relax and listen carefully to what I say. Will you do that for me?" She asked so nicely I could hardly refuse. "I want you to close your eyes, just gently and relax. Yes, just like that. That's good, that's very good." She kept on calling me Wendy and telling me how pretty I looked, and, to be fair, I got fed up with listening to the same things being repeated time and time again. Suddenly I was aware of her shaking my shoulder and asking me why I'd gone to sleep on her. I almost said through boredom, but she wasn't finished yet. "I'll make a bet with you, Wendy. If you come with me right now down to the mall and anybody at all recognizes you, then I will get Mum to let you stay dressed as a boy. If nobody guesses that you are really Wendell, then you do as we ask and let us keep you looking as pretty as you are today. You've nothing to lose because Mum is determined you will be changed into a girl sooner or later, and I am the only one she will listen to. You know that's true." She was right, I did know it was true, and so I agreed to her bet, but I said there was one thing I particularly hated: the red lipstick. Sonia confirmed that I'd accept the bet if she changed it back, and I agreed. She blotted off most of the red with a tissue and reapplied the lilac, asking if that was better. "Yes," I heard myself answer, "that's much better, I quite like that." Did I really say that? "Fine. Now you change something for me, will you?" I nodded and watched, horrified, as she produced a pair of open-toe sandals with a 2-inch heel that fitted perfectly. She made me walk up and down the bedroom to get the feel of them, and I was surprised how easy it was. She handed me a purse with a shoulder strap into which she had put some money and some makeup. Then we almost ran down the stairs. Yes, me too. And I was laughing happily as we went through the front door and jumped into the car. Susan came as well, still filming us as we positively bounced up the mall like a couple of teenagers, window shopping and smiling at the boys. Sonia won her bet. The nearest I came to recognition was when a schoolmate spoke to Sonia, who introduced me as Wendell's cousin, and he said how much alike we were. We went into an ice cream parlor where she treated me, and, when we had finished, I did as she suggested and touched up my lipstick without so much as a thought. So that was that really. We went on holiday with me in girls' clothes, and to be truthful, I had never had such a good time before. Mom and the twins saw to that. While we were away, Susan showed us the video she had taken of my first trip out and the bedroom scene where Sonia had hypnotized me into doing as she asked. 3 years have passed, during which I have only worn dresses or skirts, slacks on occasions, perhaps culottes, and lots of makeup, and I am happy to go on doing so. After the holiday in our new home, I went to school as a girl, and I know now that I shall always be one. What happens when I start to get seriously interested in boys will be another story. I never thought I'd say it, but I owe my mother and sisters a drink as soon as I'm old enough to buy one.